Hello and welcome back, guys. You are gaming with me, Brothgar, and today I got some more Forza action for you. Now, today the new DLC car pack just came out here, and one of these cool cars that they have in here is the new NSX here. And if you guys know all about the NSX, if you guys have been paying attention to cars and whatnot, it is a hybrid car, so it has both a high-performance engine and an electric engine. I decided to go ahead and take advantage of that as much as I could here and make myself a killer S1 car. So let me head on into the tuning setups here, show you what I got, and then we'll go and do a rivals challenge just to see how fast I can make this thing go. Alright, so the inspiration for my tune here isn't necessarily trying to make the fastest car I could possibly make ever. It's trying to use this sort of unique aspect of this stock engine. So what you have here is you have like this electric assisted torque, or the torque fill from the electric motors, and then you also have your engine as well. I believe it's a V6 in this case. Anyhow, turbocharged and all the fun stuff. You have a huge amount of torque in this current setup right here with, in this tuned setup, 738 foot-pounds of torque. And then 678 horsepower. Now you can throw on a different engine here, and you can actually probably tune it up to make it even faster, especially if you're going up into the S2 aspect. I know that it is faster, but S1, this isn't half bad, and I decided to try to make a tuning setup that works around having a torque ideal behind it. So the other stuff I obviously have is all-wheel drive, and then some of the other things. I have full aero on this as well, front and back, and the wheels is the stock compound, not the grip. There isn't a huge difference right there, 0.05 grip between race tire and the stock compound. Obviously making the tires as wide as I can, because you know what, you always do that. I don't necessarily have the lightest rims on here. There are some that you can throw on. I just threw these on because, well, they look cool. You can drop these down and up, and they aren't quite. That does drop me over a little bit right there. The other stuff I also have on here, obviously the very light racing clutch, and for the flywheel you want as well, because this thing has 9 gears into it once you get into the racing transmission right here. And I have a completely custom setup that I ran on the race transmission where I have a very long first gear because I have such huge torque down low. So I decided to try to make use of that. Obviously running race diff and all that fun stuff right there, making it as light as possible. You can't upgrade the brakes, they're already carbon ceramic or whatever they are. And also have the race springs. This car looks dope when it is lowered as far as it is. Also have a cool racing livery on there, which makes it look a lot better than I think it does with just a flat color. Not only that, just kind of the splitter and everything just makes it look quite a bit better. Obviously you have the roll bars, because why in the world would you go without those? You could throw on the racing sort of chassis inside of it, or whatever, the roll cage, but I leave it off because that's just weird in my opinion, but it'd probably make it a little bit better. You can also really reduce the weight down here to 3,000 pounds, but this car is relatively heavy at 3,724 pounds compared to everything else, mostly because it has electric motors and batteries and whatnot. The only thing I was able to fit on this was the sort of a racing filter or some sort of like that, or an upgraded filter. I was not able to throw in some of these other power as well. Some of those are real good. Obviously reduce the weight for the exhaust and stuff like that. Cams is usually what you'd want to throw down for making a car that goes really fast. But in this case, I did not do that because I wanted to focus on making it very, very torquey. So I put some sport valves in there because I could, because they were free. Also increased the compression ratio because that gave me some more torques as well. The big thing here is throwing in the Sport Twin Turbo. This setup I have right here, I know it is not the fastest it could possibly be, but that's what I have going on right now, just for the sake of it, because I was trying to make it as torquey as possible, because I wanted to try something a little bit unique, a little bit different right here. So if you go into the tuning setup right here, I threw in some generic numbers, not necessarily the best numbers you're ever going to see right here. Added a PSI to the front wheel, and you can see right there, just to make it a little bit more responsive in my opinion. This is the unique setup right here. I decided to actually try for the very first time ever setting up my own final drive setup. So I went 5.0 and then ran through these numbers in my brain, trying to think of a logical way. This thing has a ridiculous 9 gears in it, so if you are running manual clutch and you can shift like crazy, you'd probably get a pretty good amount of extra speed out of it. Anyhow, this was down to 2.5 and about 6 seconds from 0 to 100. You can see that stats right over there. The key aspect though is that I am doing most of my initial acceleration using that massive amount of torque here in that first gear. Now, obviously, if I had more horsepower, that would make it a lot more sense because of all these other gears right here. And you don't really need all that torque down low. Having 9 gears makes that kind of a null fact. It doesn't really work together, which is probably where you're going to want to switch out the engine. Anyhow, the alignment here, I decided to do a 3 and a 2.5. Also threw in a little bit of toe out just to give it more of a turn in, because this car is a little bit sluggish on its turn in initially, so that kind of helped right there. Again, some generic numbers. I just know these numbers work well in general. Stiffened up the roll bars a little bit right here. Springs softened those up, lowered it as low as possible because why not? Dampening, did not touch that arrow, cranked it down because, you know, I do that. And braking, I put it a little bit towards the front, not too crazy right there. And differential, I did not really touch anything right here. Probably, I wonder what would happen if I changed this right here. It has a lot of weight. Probably could turn this stuff up. Like I said, you could really adjust some things right here to maybe make them a little bit faster. Anyhow, though, I set off just to set the very best time I could in a rival challenge, just to see how fast, you know, you can go with this car right here. All right, so just a quick demonstration of what this is. With my setup, you have that very long first initial gear, and then you start shifting around like crazy, kind of just sticking to the 5,000 RPM and up to the red line of 7,500. I realistically don't use all 9 gears, right? I only use the first 8. How ridiculous is that? But in the S2 version, you can make use of all 9, definitely. Not saying you can't. I don't necessarily know if this is the fastest setup for this car. But anyhow, the rival challenge that I've been going to be doing today is a street race with a lot of hairpin corners, because I figure, you know, slowing down and accelerating is going to really, you know, be pretty good on this car. At least that's my thought. So I'm going to be trying to do the Beachside Blast here against the fastest Acura NSX that I was able to see in the results right there. So it's going to be trying to put down a pretty fast time within the top 50 right here, and hopefully being the fastest NSX on the leaderboard for Beachside Blast. I have to complete this track without hitting anything or using any resets. So let's head on into the race. So there you have it, guys. Enjoy the race. If you like this content, maybe consider hitting that like button or subscribing. Down there in the description below is the link to the channel that I'm going to have dedicated here to this Forza Horizon 3 content. There's a lot of it I want to create, but I don't necessarily want to spam my main channel here, Brothgar, with it, because it has a lot of buildup of other content that really clashes with racing content. So Mr. Brothgar is going to be the go-to channel for all of the Forza Horizon content, not only races like this, but also photo shoots where I kind of explore the more artistic side of photography, kind of like the tutorial I made for this game as well. How to take better photos here in Forza Horizon 3. If I've earned your subscription, then thank you so much for that. Have a great day, guys. Stay awesome. Peace. Brothgar out. Need more power.